In this video, we're going to go through how you can set up your first quiz or assessment within Vision. As always, the first thing you're going to want to do is navigate to a course where you have an instructor rights, and we're going to go ahead and turn editing on. That'll give us the ability to add an activity or resource. A quiz is considered an activity, so if we click on this icon right here, it loads a window where how we add all of our activities or resources. And quiz, because these are alphabetical, is a little bit down below. And you'll see where it says quiz and has a little orange check mark on a sheet of paper. If I go ahead and select that, it gives me a little description as to what the quiz can do and how it can be done. And then I go ahead and click add. This will set up the structure of the quiz for us and how we'd like to structure certain things and how the quiz is going to behave. So I'm going to give the quiz a name. I'll just name this one SOL test. Probably should capitalize SOL. So now let's get into some of the functionalities of how you can set up your quiz. One of the things you can do with your quiz is under the timing drop down here, you can set your quiz to only be available during a certain time. So for example, it shows up on one day and then it closes on another. All right. The way that you do that is you simply just enable this right here, set the time, the date, and then you're good to go. If you'd like to close a quiz where kids would not be able to access that quiz after a certain time, you would enable this right here, closing the quiz. You can also set, although I don't know many people do it anymore, a time limit. So they only have a certain amount of time to take this quiz. And when that time limit expires, how would you like Vision to do? Would you want it to, all the attempts must be submitted, so automatically it deletes everything that they've done? Or do you want it to uh, automatically submit anything that they have done, or do you want to give them a grace period where you say, I'm going to give you a grace period, and the grace period is one day, it could be hours, it could be minutes, it could be seconds. It's however you want to set up your course and the timing of when your course is going to display and when students are going to be able to actually take the assessment. Now under the grade right here is where you can allow attempts allowed. Right now you can see if I was to do this quiz right now, people can take as many attempts as they would like, and I'm going to accept the highest grade. If I wanted to change that to 1, I could do something like that, and now it's only going to accept that 1 grade, and it doesn't notice this grade out because it's not accepting the highest grade. Under layout, one of the things that I would always recommend people to do is Vision times out after 120 minutes of inactivity. So if you have a extremely long quiz that your students are taking, say there's 75, 100 questions, and it's taking students longer than 2 hours, what's going to end up happening is that when they go to hit submit at the end, because it took longer than 2 hours, it's going to log them out and they're going to lose everything that they did. So one of the things to prevent that is you're going to do essentially put in a page break. So you're going to put in a new page every, I'll say 10 questions. And that will force the page to reload when they get to that 10th question and go on to the 11th question. And then it resets that clock of the 120 minutes of inactivity. The question behavior is where you can scramble questions, you can shuffle questions, you can have feedback. So one of the things we'll talk about here a little bit later is when a student answers a question, you can give them feedback based on whatever parameters you set up. If a student says you're given a math quiz and they're not calculating something correctly and they select the wrong answer, you know exactly what they did. You could actually give feedback telling the students, hey, I noticed you selected this answer. Are you sure you did this? So you can set the deferred feedback underneath the question behavior as well as shuffling the questions. The review options. So what you can also do is you can allow students to review uh, the at the end of the test, even during the test right here, immediately after, or right here, you notice that this is later while the quiz is still open. That was open means right here, the quiz. So later after they do the quiz, while it's still in that time frame of the quiz is still available to them, they can review the quiz that they took. Or you can do it after the quiz is closed. So for example, you're not allowing them to see the questions until the quiz is actually closed, that time frame is passed, and now they can actually see their results. The display is just decimal places and things like that, nothing too important. The extra restrictions is kind of a nice thing, is that if you have set up a assessment, you can require an extra password. So say, for example, you put this assessment up in your course, and there are students in your course, and you don't want them to take the assessment until you give them the password. You certainly can set that up here. You can actually even set up that you require a network address so that they would only be able to take the assessment while at school because we have a unique network address. Um, this is another really nice function right here. Um, a lot of schools give the opportunities for students to retake tests. One of the things you can do is you can allow students to retake the test, but you can enforce a certain number or certain time frame between the retakes. Not only can you force a certain time frame between the retakes, you can enforce a different time frame between the first and second attempt as opposed to the second and third. And that would all be done right here where you're enforcing a delay between the first and second attempts, and then force a delay between all later attempts after the second attempt. The overall feedback, this was something that we talked about a little bit up here. If students, you can give, if they get 100, you can type in here, hey, great job. You can set a grade boundary for 90 saying, hey, you did all right. And then you can go on and so forth down here. And then, their kid gets a D or an F or something like that. You can say, hey, you need to study, or be sure to take the retest on such and such time and this many days later. So that is part of the feedback. There's also feedback on individual questions, which is what I was talking about a bit earlier. Some of the common module settings are ones where we talk about grouping. If you want to use grouping or you're using grouping, this is where you can do that. Or if you're using groups, it would be under the common module settings. And the restrict access, again, goes back to the completion tracking. You can require students to do certain things and have certain things complete prior to this assessment showing up. So if I hit save and recurrent course, that is actually the setting up of the structure of our assessment. And in the next video, we're going to go through how you can set up individual questions.